Welcome into the Illinicast. Austin Berkland here alongside Sunny Burma. We are the Illinicast, a part of the Big Banter Podcast Network, and we have a national champion in the world of college football. Sunny, did you watch the game or did you have a chance to?
I did watch the game. I didn't necessarily have a rooting interest, but it's the last college football game of the season, so it's hard to try to miss it because you're not going to get football for a few months. I thought it was a good team. I think the best team in the country was rewarded national champion, and that doesn't necessarily always happen. But what were your thoughts?
I was cheating. I was cheering, pardon me, for Washington and not the cheaters of the Michigan Wolverines. And I feel like Michael Penix got the PTSD from facing another Big Ten East opponent, and it showed. It showed. I mean, the accuracy he was showcasing throughout his time at Washington did not stick around at all in that national championship game. I know the short passing game wasn't working to the most efficient standards of Washington. The tackling in Michigan was just incredible on those shorter routes. But my gosh, when you have a guy like Rome Odunze and you can't really get the ball to him too much and you had opportunities, I just feel like Michael Penix kind of cost his team the national championship with his play.
Yeah, I mean, that was a 34-13 final, but I really think that game could have been a lot closer than that final score revealed to be. Michigan was clearly the better team, but like you
Yeah,
said, I think you kind of saw why Michael Penix got out of the conference because he was rattled right off the bat to the point where he was missing wide open throws. And a lot of people have already called the fact 1 week ago might have been his best game of his career, and then he followed it up with this game where in particular when he missed Adunze, I think it was in the first half, for an easy touchdown. Adunze had gotten behind his guy, and basically Penix threw the ball towards the sideline, as opposed to if he threw it midfield, Adunze had an easy 6 or 7. And the score could have gone into halftime a lot closer. So again, it's Michigan's just good. We got to give credit where they're due. I don't think they gave up over 25 points all season long on defense. They averaged 9.5 points a game allowed, which they haven't done since the '97 team, which also won the national championship. So yeah, I know the whole cheating thing, and I don't know if you're in particular a big, go Big Ten guy. I kind of tend to side with that. It's nice to get that monkey off our back, but yeah, hopefully one of these days, one of these years, we'll be able to celebrate an Illini national championship game.
I don't think so. I just want to be in the 12-team playoff right now at best. So we have a lot of work to do just to get to that point. But I am traditionally a sheer Big Ten guy, and knowing that Washington is coming into the conference, that kind of allowed me to cheer more freely for Washington over
Sure, sure,
Michigan,
sure. Yeah.
knowing that is the case coming up next year. But just the amount of talent coming into this conference is just ridiculous coming in next year to the Big Ten. And I know we have some rebuilds coming up with Washington and Michigan, but Ohio State's going to be better with their transfer quarterback coming in, and Penn State is just keeps growing as a program. I think this is going to be a fun Big Ten to be a part of, and Illinois' schedule is not the worst for a potential bowl game as well. So we'll get to that later on. There's a lot of football moves to be made in the offseason still for the Illini and the rest of the Big Ten, but we had a game against Purdue, and I was grooving on a dance floor in Florida at a wedding reception. Um, but so I just kind of want a little review from you, Sonny, on Purdue and Illinois. What caused the big streaks of Purdue? Was checking the score occasionally on GameCast, and there were some big time moments where Illinois was just outgunned. It felt like what happened during those stretches.
I mean, for the most part, it was up until the first. It was 20-4 immediately. Purdue. We all figured Matt Painter would, throw Edie against Ty Rogers, and I just didn't realize that they would do it right off the bat. And they'd completely, with Edie being able to camp in the middle of the paint, our shooters really couldn't do anything. Like we couldn't do anything with our spread offense. And Brad admitted this in the press conference after the game that he switched out of that a little too late. We basically readjusted. We the second half, Ty Rodgers barely played. We made a lot of runs. Coleman Hawkins led the run in the first half, and Coleman Hawkins led a run in the second half. He was a little bit of whiny, but I think that's just kind of Coleman Hawkins' personality. Honestly, that's what it came down to. We got Edie in foul trouble, which not a lot of teams in his career can say. And while we were able to take advantage, we just couldn't ultimately crawl out of that 24 hole that we built ourselves in. Um, Again, I'm more of a Ty Rodgers guy. I know you have concerns with him, and your concerns shone through on Friday night. Like it's something which we all have to kind of wonder to ourselves: is like, did Purdue show the blueprint on how to beat the Illini moving forward? What kind of adjustments is Brad Underwood going to be able to make? It's not like we have anyone off the bench. Dane had an awful game on Friday, so it's like we're already running like 6, 7 guys max in our rotation. So taking Ty Rodgers out, which I don't want to do, he does so many other things well. But now, if all of a sudden painters let others know the strategy is just put your center on Ty Rodgers, and that neutralizes the spread offense that we're kind of playing on offense that we've been so successful with over the last half dozen games. It's going to be interesting to see what Michigan State does on Friday.
Who impressed you in this game, and who gave you the most pause outside of maybe Ty Rodgers in this game?
Uh, again, I get he was very whiny, and a lot of people were complaining about it because like he was on LeBron level complaining, Coleman Hawkins, but he was seeing the floor well and he was switching well. He didn't grab as many rebounds as he should have. I think he only ended up with like 4 or 5, but I think Coleman Hawkins was probably outside Domask again. Domask had another very good game. He kind of carried our offense after that initial drought. He's just hard to guard. Like he's got that confidence that he had against FAU. He's got it back, and he's taken on the alpha role that Shannon kind of left open. And the way he's been playing, you're talking about all Big Ten first team. Quincy Guerrier, another solid double double. I think he was at 18 and 10, if I recall correctly. Again, we played well. We genuinely played well, which is why I talked about. I wasn't too upset after the game. Without our best player going into Mackey, losing by what was it, 5 points?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it all came down to 20-4. If we hadn't given up that initial, run to Purdue where they were just out rebounding us, it was puzzling. They seemed to be out hustling us. We couldn't figure out what to do, but once we got in the groove, we led almost 80% of that, or not, sorry, 80% of the rest of the game. Obviously, Purdue was ahead in score, but we had, I think it was like 64-53. I saw like the rest of the game after that 20-4. So, Ty Rodgers, unfortunately, he was the guy that we have to talk about moving forward. But even Harmon didn't have that scoring output that he had the games post Shannon's suspension. So, when you just don't have those guys and you're just counting strictly on Domask and you're counting on Guerrier, it's going to be hard to beat the best team in the country.
So, watching the Purdue game, where do you think Illinois fits in the rest of the Big Ten?
I think we're going to find out a little bit on Friday because, obviously Michigan State had seemingly turned things around until they just lost to Northwestern a couple days ago. But from what I've been watching, like the second and third most impressive teams this season seem to me be ourselves, Illinois, and also Wisconsin is playing really well right now. So, Wisconsin, AJ Storr, it's going to come down between AJ Storr and Marcus Domask for, best newcomer in the conference. I still have a very high ceiling, much higher than I was initially thinking once the Shannon news broke. These guys are playing really, really well. Not many teams, let me rephrase that. No other team has a Zach Edey that they can kind of just use that strategy against Illinois. So I'm still optimistic. I still think we can battle for second, third. Who knows? With the whole Shannon news, that game, our senior night in Champaign against Purdue, it could come down to that game. First is not a reach yet. We'll see what Purdue does.
I mean, we can't forget that Purdue lost to a Northwestern team that ended up losing to Chicago State. I feel like there are other losses that could come for the Purdue Boilermakers. I mean, just similarly as the Illinois Fighting Illini could have some losses with Terrence Shannon out, depending on hot shooting streaks by opposing teams, and that could happen against the Michigan State Spartans. But the fact that Illinois was a 5 point game after going down 20-4 is pretty impressive of the willpower of this Illini basketball team. It feels like they are truly playing together. I mean, we've been a broken record, but some of those John Gross teams that would have became a 30 point game, became a 40 point game, and we're on the brink of a record breaking loss in the Big Ten under John Gross. But the fact that these guys are fighting for each other minute in and minute out, no matter the situation of Terrence Shannon Jr., no matter the situation of being down in a game, I mean, that is pretty impressive of what Brad Underwood has been able to build with this team, and just even the juxtaposition of this year versus last year. A news like this last year would have just broken this team mentally, and I can't believe how well this team has responded since the Terrence Shannon news broke.
I completely agree. And we don't have to go back to the John Gross era. It's like you said last year. The personalities on this team, I don't think they would have thrived in the current conditions. This team kind of, it's the two main guys, the two newcomers, Marcus Domask, Quincy Guerrier, who have just shouldered that extra load. Guerrier is almost a double machine now. He's an ace from that corner 3-pointer spot. Um, it's like you said, like this team, they bonded well. They're a cohesive unit, and they found out the same day we did about the Terrence Shannon news, and they've been thriving since. They had those impressive wins against Fairleigh Dickinson, Northwestern, and we went toe to toe again, with the best team in the country at their place, and almost came out with the victory. Now, we'll see what happens on senior night in Champaign. Especially if Shannon comes back.
Speaking of Shannon, we have a couple bits of news updates on the Terrence Shannon Jr. situation. We still have that January 18th court case in Kansas where that initial hearing will be heard by the court system about what happened at Jayhawk Cafe in Lawrence, Kansas. And then this came out on Monday. Terrence Shannon Jr. and his lawyer team filed a temporary restraining order against the suspension by the U of I. The U of I had their three-person panel meet, and they upheld the indefinite suspension based on the facts that are present at this time. But Terrence Shannon Jr. has wrote a letter basically out to the public about all that happened in his words and all that has taken place by the U of I and by the legal system and all the consequences that he has to bear on his side of the story. Obviously, we don't know if Terrence Shannon is lying, is telling the truth, but this is kind of how it's gone so far. So, what are your thoughts on where we're at in Terrence Shannon Jr.'s case, Sonny?
As you said, we're not lawyers. I know nothing. That's why I'm kind of usually hesitant to tweet anything about it. Just I know other programs out there like to discuss the case more in depth, but obviously it's an unfortunate situation. We've been able to see the incident reports now, and how the cameras aren't at least able to confirm what happened. At least it didn't happen on screen. We've heard her side of the story, and now we kind of know his side of the stories. And for the most part, it is kind of a he said, she said. I understand where Terrence Shannon's coming from, in the sense where he discussed that, you know, this court case, which could be concluded at the end of the college basketball season could cost him dearly in the long run when it comes to his future earnings. An NBA team's going to have a hard time drafting him, if he doesn't play the rest of the season. Now, all these things are secondary in the big picture, but for someone like him, I understand what his concern is. And it also puts pressure on the DA to be able to provide some evidence, I feel like, that they have a strong case moving forward. So, I understand what Terrence Shannon's move here was. I think it's ultimately good for the at least the athletics department for the University of Illinois because it kind of puts them out of it. They made their move immediately to suspend Terrence based on a rule that they have at the university, but the law will supersede that, and so it's they're not going to get the black eye that some of the other institutions may, in particular, have. It's tricky all around. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens on Friday. That's when apparently this new case will be heard, and we'll find out whether he's going to be able to play or not. I think that's my understanding. I don't know if yours is any different. But it's just hopefully this whole thing gets resolved sooner rather than later. Whether he plays or not, Illinois just kind of got to focus on their basketball team just because we have such a talented basketball team. It's one thing if our ceiling was mid Big Ten, maybe getting into the tournament, but Brad Underwood, as we just talked about, has a really good basketball team that has the capability of going further than his teams in the past have, and so we kind of have to also remain focused.
Absolutely. I mean, the team is the team at this point, and they've done a great job of showcasing that they don't necessarily need Terrence to kind of get to the goals that they kind of expect themselves to be at. But in Terrence's letter, he kind of goes through the what happened on the day, an incident where he went to the Jayhawk Cafe, a bar that evening, and then he goes on to say how much he needs this money to talk his NIL money to take care of his siblings and his mother and even his father's children, and talks about going to the University of Illinois, something that he is extremely proud of. And he also states that he has no criminal history and that his mom raised him well. And then goes on to talk about basketball being his life and the work ethic to play basketball, and he is still in shock on the charges laid in front of him, and basically just kind of trying to clear his name in the court of public opinion and to the panel that that saw his case to keep that indefinite suspension. So that's kind of where we're at in Terrence Shannon's letter and case. It was the temporary restraining order was supposed to go to local court, but the local judge recused himself, and now it'll be heard in federal court under a Judge Lawless. So that is where we are at in the Terrence Shannon news. It's kind of more of a news bulletin for us rather than a let's really hash this out. We're not lawyers. You can get that information elsewhere, but we will be here to react to the Illinois basketball side of things if and when things change with Terrence Shannon Jr. But we have a huge game between the Michigan State Spartans and the Illinois Fighting Illini, the number 10 Fighting Illini. They dropped one spot from their number 9 ranking after the loss to Purdue, which was 83-78. Michigan State is coming off of a loss to Northwestern, who won 88-74 on January 7th. This will take place at 8 p.m. FS1, January 11th. 2024. And Sunny, what are your initial impressions on this Spartan game?
I again we it's been dominating the show, but I want to see if they make some sort of adjustment with Ty Rogers. I just want to see if other teams are going to immediately try to take advantage of it or not. I'm pretty confident. I think that we should be winning this game, but a lot of preseason picks had Michigan State at number 2. They're obviously a really talented bunch. Walker is one of the finest players in the Big Ten, but we've seen them struggle. Arguably, probably the third biggest disappointment now in the Big Ten, outside Michigan and Maryland. Uh, it's a game I think, especially at home, we should win. And whether we do, I don't. We'll see. It's for me. It's all about. I really want to see if we're able to build our rotation a little bit because right now we are running these guys to the ground, and how like we're one injury away from Domask or Guerrier to be in pretty big trouble right now, and so I'm not sure, but I think we should come out with a win.
Yeah, I think this should be a win. I'd love to see more from our bench, guys like Trey Gibbs Lahorn and Justin Harmon. I think those guys are so crucial to where Illinois needs to be. And there's going to be a lot of minutes on a lot of bodies in that top five, top six of the rotation by the time March hits. And we've seen it before. Tired legs don't really help out in March. And uh, I think that is extremely what happened in the Loyola game that Illinois lost. I think there was a lot of tired legs in that coming from the Big Ten Conference Championship, uh, going into the NCAA tournament as the number one seed. So I just wanted to see some of the bench guys try to take away some of the minutes from the starters and be serviceable. I think that's the crucial part. But this Michigan State team, 1-3 in the Big Ten, they are in a five-way tie for last place in the Big Ten with Iowa, Maryland, Rutgers, and Michigan. They're 9-6 overall, but a lot of their 9 wins aren't that impressive. We have a loss early on in the season to a team that is almost like a Chicago State, loss to Northwestern. They have that in their resume. So this is a this is a game where if Marcus Domask and Quincy Guerrier take care of business, this should not even be a contest. This is a team that's playing really well together right now. This is a team that has to bounce back for the first time in a while, and I'm excited to see that process. And especially with the way Brad Underwood has been coaching, I think that's going to be a kind of an easy bounce back for the Illini against this Michigan State team.
I'm not sure if it's going to be easy. Michigan State, especially after they lost in Northwestern, as you just went over, their out of conference schedule, they did not perform well at all. They need these quad one wins. They need the quad one, quad two wins. Um, a victory in Champaign for Michigan State is going to be huge for their chances to get into the tournament later on in the season. So, you know, I I'm still going to just trust, Coach Izzo's going to have his guys ready to play. Obviously, they haven't for the most part this season, but regardless, I think we've seen our team. Brad Underwood has them ready, and as long as we stick to the game plan, stay out of foul trouble, and hopefully, as you said, some of the more lesser used guys are able to get some minutes. I'd love to see Hansberry get some more experience on the court with the other Big Ten physical guys because I think Domask played all 40 minutes in Purdue. I don't know if I remember seeing that stat on post game or not, but he can't be doing that every single day. We need to have games where we're comfortably ahead by 15, 16 points with a couple minutes left where we can just give these guys a breather because again, we're only going to reach our ceiling as long as Domask and Guerrier are playing at their ceiling.
Yeah, I think the keys to this game, I think the scoring will come if Illinois plays their best game, but I think a couple key factors are at play here. I think you got to get in some passing lanes against Michigan State. They have 18 assists per game. Um, and I think you got to keep your rebounding. Illinois has done a great job of rebounding this year. You got to keep that up, and you got to take care of the ball against this Michigan State team. They have 7.5 steals per game. So if Illinois is to take care of the basketball, I feel like that's going to be a vital factor in why Illinois wins this game. If they get a little sloppy, that's whenever things can start to turn a little bit, especially in this Big Ten conference where even with a team like Michigan State who's 1-3, they can come and surprise a little bit.
And as you talked about, like this is the first time we have to bounce back after a loss. We're riding pretty high between Missouri, Dickinson, and Northwestern, and it's again we went toe to toe against Purdue. You want to see this team continue playing at the level of efficiency and pace that they have been playing, because they like talent wise, we may not necessarily be there with Michigan State, unless Domask keeps playing out of his mind. But as long as we keep playing cohesive, we need all these wins just like they do. We want to keep track. We want to keep pace with Purdue, Wisconsin. I believe in the last week of the season, I know I already mentioned Purdue, but I think Wisconsin is the game before Purdue. So those games are going to matter. Yeah, those games are going to matter. So it's you don't want to give up losses to teams that you are clearly better than. And yeah, again, Friday is going to be a huge test on Underwood getting these guys ready. Earlier in the day, or the day previous, there we're going to hear about Shannon. Hopefully, or is it Friday? I guess I'm mixing up my days now. No, Friday. So earlier in the day, we're going to hear any Shannon news that happen, and you don't want that to be a distraction for the basketball team on the court. I'm screwing my days up, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
Thursday night's the game, so
Yes.
focus on Thursday night. Get that win. Don't have that whole Shannon cloud hovering over you.
Yeah, Terrence Shannon was averaging 21.7 points per game, which would be second in the Big Ten if he were to continue to play. I'm sure he'll drop out after the games played factor comes into play. But Tyson Walker of Michigan State is one of those top three scorers in the Big Ten. If Illinois stops him, then you got to go all the way down to the number 39th player in the country, 39th player in the Big Ten in scoring to get the number two scorer in the Big Ten. Marcus Domask right now is at number 20 in the Big Ten in points per game. So I feel like stopping Tyson Walker, which is no easy task, is going to be a huge factor in if Illinois wins or loses this game.
Yeah, and we have a quick turnaround. We have a game against Maryland on Sunday, so get that W on Thursday night. It's my son says hello. Uh,
Hello. I love it.
Sorry about that. Get that win Thursday night. As you said, like let Domask play back in the flow. For me, I really think we want Lawhorn to get some points. We want him to get some confidence. He came in that Purdue game. I wasn't sure if he was going to. Obviously, he's got, and his mother has some history going back and forth with the fans of Purdue right now. And he came in there. He didn't really have much of an offensive output, and he had like 4 fouls very quickly in the game. But this is what college basketball is all about. He had a pretty good, solid defensive impact, and his confidence is sky high, and that's always nice to see as well. So if we can get him scoring, then we're not so much counting on Harmon to be that third guy. We want another guy on the wing who can put in some points. And what I wanted to see is I don't know if you've gotten any updates on Moretti because he's out of the boot, but I don't know if that means he's coming in in this stretch of games or if he's still a month away. Have you heard anything?
I have not heard anything, but he is another guy that can help alleviate some of the Ty Rogers issues in the offense. And if you need that offensive minded point guard, boom, he's there. He's going to help you out. Because right now, Ty Rogers, it's a 4-on-5 battle. And you can win games like that against teams like Indiana, Nebraska, Ohio State, Penn State. I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse, but against elite teams, you need a 5 versus 5 offensive masterpiece. And I think Moretti's passing ability can help out with that. Defensively, who knows what he can give you, but I kind of want an offensive point guard just to help alleviate some pressure there. But going back to my Tyson Walker comment, so far Illinois has lost to Kolek of Marquette and Dalton Connect of Tennessee. So stopping an elite scoring guard has been Illinois' bugaboo so far this year, and I think this is a crucial matchup in that to see if Illinois can win this game.
I mean, even Boo Booey, we may
Yep.
beat Northwestern by 30, but Boo Booey got 20 plus points himself. It's not like we just basically shut everything else down on the Northwestern end. So, you're exactly right. Guarding the point guard, seems to be an Achilles heel, and it's something that we've got to progressively get better in as the Big Ten season goes on, because otherwise, not only are they going to figure it out in the Big Ten, but coming March, when guard play is so important, we're basically signing ourselves up for another early exit. And it's just, I believe in Underwood. I think this is one of his, if not the best coached performances that he's had in his career. But it's a big glaring hole, and I hate, because again, I like Ty. I really like Ty, but I hate the storyline being about him for a factor that he can't really control himself. And so if we can alleviate that pressure off of him, let Ty do what he does best. Because we go 4-on-5 on the offensive side, but he's fantastic on the defensive side as a very athletic wing who's able to switch off screens, attack the ball handler. I just want him to be able to relax and play his game, and being able to guard that point guard, it's going to be key to that.
I do kind of like the timing of this matchup if you take out the whole Terrence Shannon Jr. thing, because that's a huge outlier in all that we talk about in Illinois basketball. So let's just take that out. I do like that we're playing a Tom Izzo team on January 11th as opposed to late February, where he kind of has his team figure some things out. So I feel like right now is a great time to get a Tom Izzo team as opposed to later on in the year.
Especially if we continue to play the way we have been over the past, it's been a month essentially. It started
Yeah.
get kicked off, especially with that Missouri game. If we can continue this onslaught, just basically put our foots to Michigan State's neck. Obviously they're struggling; they're still trying to find themselves. We can, try to end this game early, like you said. He's a great coach, but they haven't figured it out yet. So if they're going to figure it out, let them figure it out against a different team.
And Tom Izzo is battling with reporters on analytics, so you always love seeing that. He was like, "I just like looking at a player's toughness. This doesn't matter." Like, I'm like, "Come on now, this is a
That's
great time." He's starting to get that little punch, like. So this is a great opportunity for Brad Underwood and the Illini going up against this Tom Izzo, who's already battling reporters. Do you have a score prediction, Sonny, for this game?
Yeah, I think we take care of business. Let's say 71-57.
71-57. I got 84 to 76. 84-76. That's what I think that I land on with this. I feel like there's going to be some hype offensively in this game. Illinois is going to have some great shooting spots since they're back at home. And I feel like defensively, Illinois still has a couple things to figure out here against like guy by the likes of Tyson Walker. So I do think Illinois wins this game handily, but defense is going to come at a premium in this one.
Yeah, I'm just factoring in that at some point one of these guys, Domask or Gary, has to have an off game. So 71 points by Illinois standards is pretty low, but I just think we're still clearly the better team, or at least playing better than Michigan State is right now. And the fact that the game is in Champaign, the energy is going to be there. I just hope, we have, again, a 14-minute or 14-point win, but more importantly, we get some other guys playing, because it's hard to, the couple of guys that we have to shoulder all this load. I want to be able to deepen our bench a little bit moving forward.
Sonny, what a great episode. We covered a lot of Purdue. We covered a little bit of the national championship, Terrence Shannon Jr., and of course, this Michigan State Spartan game coming up in the State Farm Center. Thank you again.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
This has been an episode of the Illinicast as part of the Big Banter Podcast Network.